Hey everyone, Ryan from Ebike Escape, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Rad Power Bike's RadRunner Plus, so let's get into it. Before we get into the walk around, please do me a favor. If you are looking to purchase any model from Rad Power Bikes, check out the link in the description. Clicking that link before making your purchase is a free and easy way to help support Ebike Escape. Thank you so much for your support. We'll also have our resources down in the description as well, our electric bike accessories list, top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts code page, where we track all the deals on the electric bike brands that we follow. With that, let's get into the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner Plus. Now, a question I get pretty frequently is, what is my favorite e-bike? And the answer to that is, of course, the Rad Wagon, the e-bike that started it all for us. But my second choice, at least in the Rad Power Bikes lineup, might be the RadRunner and, of course, the RadRunner Plus. It has the versatility of a cargo e-bike, but also isn't quite as heavy as the Rad Wagon. It's not as long, it's not as cumbersome. This is a little bit more nimble, and of course it has the awesome kind of moped style feel. We'll get into all of the specs, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but let's start off with the components. So first we have Throttle mechanical disc brakes, a very common component, not only on Rad Power Bikes models, but also in the entry-level price points of electric bikes. 180 millimeter rotors as well. And as far as mechanical disc brakes go, I always kind of compare other mechanical disc brakes to the Throttle branded ones because I actually think they feel quite nice. Now, one thing I just wanted to point out for those who are perhaps digging into Rad Power Bikes bikes for the first time, while this is a Plus model, it is slightly different than the other Plus models offered. So there's the Rad Rover 6 Plus, and then there is the Rad City 5 Plus, and those are a little bit different spec because those will have hydraulic disc brakes. They have a semi-integrated battery. So just note that while this is a Plus model and does have some more features than the original RadRunner, it's not a Plus model in the respect that it has some of those other upgraded components that you get on those other models. Now, I'm going to try to call out all the differences between the Plus model and the non-Plus model as we go through them. First off, we have the fenders here. So these are plastic fenders, come stock on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner Plus. You do have to purchase them separately if you want them for your RadRunner. Up front, we have Kenda 20 by 3.3 inch tires. So they're not quite fat tires, which I personally believe start at 4 inches. They're kind of an in-between at 3.3 inches, but certainly these offer some more stability on the road and certainly allow you to take them a little bit more off-road. And I actually really like the tread pattern. It's not super knobby compared to some fat tire e-bikes, but you're certainly going to be able to take these off-road. And as we see on many of the Rad Power Bikes, if not all of them, we have a reflective sidewall here, increased visibility at night. Speaking of visibility, let's talk about this headlight. So this is the premium headlight, again, an upgrade on the Plus model. The original RadRunner just comes with a standard light, and you can purchase this aftermarket. I believe it's currently still priced at $49. Now, I did do a separate video on this light comparing it to the stock lights. So if you want to see them side by side, you can check out that video. But in my opinion, this light, while nice and big and gives you a lot of visibility on the road, it doesn't offer a significant amount of increased visibility as far as being able to see better on the roadway. I think it's a light that allows you to be seen better, but it could be more powerful. In fact, I've seen more powerful lights on the market, but I will admit that this light looks really cool, and you can see they actually have the power button kind of tucked in here. Of course, that's part of the Rad Power Bikes logo. Another thing that you'll find on this Plus model compared to the non-Plus model is the suspension. So if you are looking to take this bike off-road, you might want to opt for the Plus model for that additional comfort. There is a preload adjustment on the left, and there is a lockout on the right in case you want to lock that out if you are riding on some really smooth pavement. I'll go ahead and push on the front suspension so you can get an idea. It's not the longest travel, but certainly going to soak up some additional bumps that you may encounter. So really like the addition of the front suspension. As we see on all the Rad Power Bikes models, we have 4 bolts up here, and that allows you to add some accessories. There's a front basket that mounts right to these mounts, and there's also a front rack, which then you can buy a small basket or a large basket. You can buy bags to fit in there as well. So really like that. That of course adds to the versatility and the cargo capability of this electric bike. Just a note that if you do purchase the front rack, you will need to do away with this front headlight because it's just so large. You may want to check out the forum that I run at radowners.com. Tons of information about Rad Power Bikes models there, but there might be some people who have customized their front rack and made the premium headlight work with those front racks. Let's talk about the cable management, and I actually really like what Rad Power Bikes did with the cable management on this bike. You can see towards the top, there's just some zip ties keeping these cables together, but then they come into one nice bunch here, kind of a neoprene sleeve, and then they go to the bottom of what I'll call the down tube here, kind of inside the frame. I really like the BMX style handlebars that Rad Power Bikes includes on this bike, a more upright riding position, and of course fits the moped style feel and just uniqueness of this electric bike. All right, let's dig into the cockpit. So we have the faux leather grips that we see on all of the models here. They come with brown grips to match the seats, which I think looks really classy. And if you do find that these grips move around a little bit more over time, you can certainly upgrade to some locking grips. I already talked about the brakes, but we have matching levers here. Of course, the Throttle branded ones. They have a nice rubber grip here, just a little bit more comfortable on these brakes, but they do feel quite nice as far as mechanical disc brakes go. We also have the motor cutoff, so as soon as you hit the brakes, that is going to cut power from the motor. And what I really like about the Throttle brakes here is it actually has an integrated bell, so very easy to hit the bell to let people know you're coming up behind them. Okay, we'll jump to the right side here and talk about the right-hand twist grip throttle. All Rad Power Bikes models come with a right-hand twist grip throttle. I personally prefer that to the thumb throttles. You just need to be aware if you're hopping on this electric bike and it is on, that some people may accidentally kind of twist this, and then of course the bike is going to take off on you. So just something to be aware of if you're new to electric bikes. Once you're comfortable, it's actually not a big deal. I personally have never accidentally kind of hit the throttle on any of the Rad Power Bikes models. As far as the shifter goes, we have a very basic Shimano 7-speed. This is the Sys Index shifter that I see on so many electric bikes. It is a thumb shifter. Let's move on to the controls as well as the display. So on the left here, we have a mode button in the center. That's also your power button. And then you have pedal assist up as well as pedal assist down. So I'm going to turn the bike on here, and you can see that the indicator here shows that the lights are on. So the Rad Power Bikes models, as soon as you turn the bike on, the lights automatically go on. But if you want to turn the lights off, you can hold the mode and pedal assist up button at the same time, and that indicator will go away. Now, I always recommend riding with the lights on. It doesn't drain too much battery, and of course, for the additional visibility, definitely worth having them on. Now, as far as the display goes, this is a very simple monochrome display. Rad Power Bikes has been using it for a number of years. On their other Plus models, they do have a more premium dual display, but I have to say, after testing tons of electric bikes, I really appreciate that this display is really easy to read during the day. It's very simple, it's not color, but it gets the job done and gives you the information that you need. In the top left-hand side, we have the battery capacity, 5 bars. I personally do like to see percentages, but it will give you an idea of how much battery you have left. In the top right-hand corner, we have odometer, and pressing that center mode button is going to change the information there. Trip odometer, and back to odometer. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have PAS, which stands for pedal assist. So 0, 1, 2 eco, 3 standard, 4 is power, and of course 5 is speed. And I also really like seeing the current wattage output of the motor. Again, this is a 750 watt peak motor from Rad Power Bikes. And the other nice thing that I like about this display is it does have a USB port located underneath it. And I personally wish every company included a USB port on their electric bike so you can charge your phone up if you want. Now, one thing I will point out with these handlebars, so you have the display front and center here. If you wanted to mount some lights, perhaps you could slide the display over and then it's just not centered, but you certainly could add a cell phone holder here. The only challenge is adding accessories to the handlebars right around here because of course they swoop down right away. So if I was accessorizing this electric bike, if you're looking at a mirror, I would definitely go with a bar end mirror. Let's move on to the rest of the bike. I've already pointed out some of the aesthetics around the bike, but we do have Plus here. And of course, this is the first generation of the RadRunner Plus. And we also have RadRunner towards the rear here. And of course, their logo right here. One thing you'll note is this is a step-through electric bike, and I really like that because it makes it more accessible to a variety of riders, and especially if you're looking for a moped-style electric bike, not a lot of them are really offered in a step-through variation, and this is actually a pretty unique design in my opinion. Now we do have some mounting points here and here. You can mount a bottle cage here, but they also sell an accessory called the center console, which mounts here. Now you do lose the ability to kind of step through here, but you do gain some additional storage. I'll show off some of the accessories later in the third-person riding footage. Now, in many of the Rad Power Bikes models, we have external components. And what I mean by that is the battery is external as well as the controller. You can see the controller is actually tucked up nicely underneath the bike frame here, and there is a bash guard here protecting it. Really like that they took the additional step to make sure that nothing is going to happen to your controller. And while external components don't give you as nice of a clean look, it is nice for maintenance purposes because everything is accessible. Now, all models of Rad Power Bikes currently, as of recording, come with 14 amp hour packs with the exception of the most affordable model, the Rad Mission. And again, all of the models except for the Plus models, the other Plus models, the Rad Rover and Rad City, are using this Shark style battery pack that Rad Power Bikes has been using for some time. Now the bike is currently in its on position, and turning it left once is going to disable the bike. So if someone came up to the bike, they would not be able to turn it on. And then if you want to unlock the battery, you actually push in and turn all the way left. I've had varying experiences with these Shark style batteries. Sometimes they can be a little bit tricky to remove. I like to use both hands, just helps me control the movement a little bit better. Simply lift up, and the battery is tucked behind the seat tube here, but it's actually not as bad as you would think to remove. We have an LED indicator up here to give you an idea of battery capacity, and of course the charger port is right here, and of course the battery can be charged both on and off the bike. Again, 48 volt, 14 amp hour pack. And there's simply a battery plate that this battery attaches to. And just a note, if you want some kind of terminal cover, you can check out our electric bike accessories list where we share some of the links to Etsy where you can buy a plastic cover. For instance, if you're traveling with this electric bike, you might want to cover those terminals in case you get any rain. So go ahead and put the battery back and simply slide it down and turn the key all the way to the right, and now it's back on. As we see on many electric bikes, not just the Rad Power Bikes models, we have Welgo metal pedals. They have reflectors on them and they get the job done. If you want something perhaps with a slightly bigger platform or some cooler colors, you can certainly upgrade, but these are just fine. And as we see on many electric bikes these days, the kickstand, a pretty burly kickstand here, is located towards the rear, so no chance of it coming in contact with the pedals. Now, what makes the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner Plus really shine, in my opinion, is the ability to take a passenger. So first, let's talk about the foot pegs here, which come standard on this bike. Again, an optional accessory on the original RadRunner non-Plus model. And you can see we already have this skirt guard already installed. That's going to prevent anyone who's riding this bike, their legs getting caught in the spokes or any piece of clothing. So a safety feature, again, we have the rear fender, comes stock on the RadRunner Plus. Before we get into the seat, here are the Tektro Aries mechanical disc brakes in the rear. We also have a torque arm here right next to the axle, and of course that is an additional step that Rad Power Bikes has taken just to make sure that your wheel stays where it is supposed to be. And you'll note that all the cables come from the rear here, and we have this cable here kind of weaving through the frame and then going up to the rear light, which I'll show you here in just a second. But first, let's talk about the passenger seat here as well as the rider seat. Now, what Rad Power Bikes has done is actually pretty unique. Most moped style electric bikes do not have any adjustability as far as seat height goes, but what's really cool is this has adjustability. But if you want to ride this bike more like a moped, you can keep the seat nice and low and it matches really nicely with the rear seat at a similar height. So I'll go ahead and raise the seat, and of course this is going to allow the rider to get into a more comfortable riding position. You can get full leg extension, which of course most people prefer. Something to point out as far as comfort goes, this seat leaves a little bit to be desired as far as comfort, but with the introduction of the second generation RadRunner, the non-Plus model, they did increase the amount of padding here, and I could definitely tell a difference. I'm assuming with the next generation of the RadRunner Plus, they will do the same on this electric bike, making this seat a little bit more comfortable. Now, of course, you can upgrade to a more comfortable seat, but you just want to be aware that you also need to purchase a different seat post because this seat post is custom to this seat. So if you're looking at an additional seat post, you can opt for the SR Suntour NCX suspension seat post, which I highly recommend. Check out our electric bike accessories list. Otherwise, you can just purchase any 27.2 diameter seat post, and that'll work fine with whatever seat you want to put on here. Again, we have seat recommendations on our electric bike accessories list as well. Just keep in mind, if you put a different saddle on here, you're not going to be able to lower it as low as this seat, and of course it's not going to fit nicely against the rear passenger seat. Now, of course, maybe you're not even using this rear passenger seat if you're hauling cargo, so just something to be aware of. Now, one of the bonuses, of course, with the RadRunner Plus is it comes with the seat. Compared to the non-Plus version, you can purchase this as an optional accessory. And again, the Plus model comes with this nice brown color. And Rad Power Bikes does sell some additional passenger handlebars, which I'll also talk about later in the video and kind of show off with the passenger on this electric bike. Let's talk briefly about this rear light. Now, on camera, it's likely showing that it's flashing. That is actually not the case, it's just on. But when I hit the brakes, it's actually going to go brighter. Now, as far as visibility goes, most brands offer a rear light that leaves a little bit to be desired as far as visibility goes. I hope some companies decide to upgrade their rear lights. I think you could definitely get some brighter rear lights on some of these electric bikes. Let's move on to the other side of the bike here. 11 to 34 teeth here in the rear. I really like the range that Rad Power Bikes includes. Not many companies go all the way down to 11 teeth. So that means in a higher gear, you're going to be able to put more effort into the pedals, and that's how I prefer to ride. Talk a little bit more about the gearing and how I personally feel riding this electric bike in the upcoming first-person riding footage. Now, as far as gearing in the front, we have a double-sided metal chainring. Really like that. Helps protect the cogs as well as your pants from getting any chain grease on them. This is a 48-tooth front chainring. Let's jump back to the rear here. We have a Shimano Altus rear derailleur, a very common component that we see on many electric bikes. It's not the most basic component from Shimano. It's a slight step up, but I do find that these are pretty easy to adjust. You have a barrel adjuster here in the rear, and Shimano Altus is really a component that we see so often on many electric bikes. Before we talk about the motor, I just want to point out this little chainstay protector, kind of a piece of neoprene here. That's of course going to prevent your bike from getting nicked up from any chain slap. So really like when companies take the additional step to protect your nice and new looking electric bike and keep it looking just as nice as when you unboxed it. In the rear here, I already talked about this motor, 750 watt peak motor, and something I like to point out is where the cable comes in. Rad Power Bikes has actually made this change on most of their electric bikes, is the cable comes in on the left side, right in between the disc rotor and the dropouts. So the cable is actually right here and it's nice and protected, not going to get caught on anything. On many electric bikes, you'll actually see the cable come in right here on the right. And we do have a derailleur guard here in the rear. And so something to check on any electric bike that you purchase, just be sure that this derailleur guard isn't bent into your derailleur, because that might be actually the problem if you're having any shifting problems. I also wanted to share some of the accessories that I think are really great for the RadRunner Plus, as well as some accessories that we use almost on a daily basis, at least during riding season. So this is kind of the setup that we would personally use. Obviously, we're a cargo e-bike family, and the RadRunner ticks a lot of our boxes. Now, what is cool is Rad Power Bikes, with the RadRunners, they offer this center console, which is a plastic carrying case here. It has some stickiness here for a phone. You can throw your phone in there, a small cup holder. And what's really cool is it's purpose-built for the RadRunner, so it just fits it really nicely. And it offers some waterproof protection here, and there are just straps keeping the top on here. Now the volume here isn't huge, but you certainly can pack some things in here, maybe a small backpack or a purse and some other belongings. Just really nice to have some storage. Now keep in mind, with the center console installed, unfortunately it does remove some of the accessibility from this bike. Of course, that really nice step through frame design, so something to keep in mind. Now the other accessories that we have personally been using testing out the RadRunner Plus are the Thule Yepp Maxi child seat. It's an expensive accessory. We did a separate video on it, but we use these seats all the time. In fact, this is our newer one. We also have a blue one, and we've been using it for years with our son, who is 2 years old. And this child seat works with all the Rad Power Bikes models, with the exception of the Rad Mission, as well as previously the Rad Mini, now the Rad Expand. You can't use this seat on it, but for all the other models, if you have a rear rack, this seat is compatible, which is really awesome. With the Thule Yepp Maxi window, that's this little window that you see here. I'll show that off in a little bit. Just thought I'd also show there's 4 bolts that connect the rear passenger package here on the RadRunner Plus, so went ahead and removed that. One thing to pay close attention to, not just with the RadRunner, but any electric bike, but in particular cargo electric bikes that have storage in the rear, especially for passengers, you want to make sure you're following all of Rad's recommendations as far as weight capacity goes on the rear here, whether they're in the child seat or on the rear passenger pad. Yeah. I'll go ahead and show you just how easy it is to attach the Thule seat. And what we found works the easiest is inserting the front first here, getting it over that lip, and then pushing down, and then of course tighten down on the seat. And then on the other side, the Thule seat does come with the ability to lock this in place as well. And so this is an awesome way to transport your children. Now, it doesn't have the capability of holding 2 of these seats like the Rad Wagon, but it is awesome nonetheless. So that's the Thule Yepp Maxi seat. Now I'm going to show you the passenger handles that they sell for the RadRunner, which of course are a nice accessory for your passenger to have something to hold on to and feel a little bit more secure. And stay tuned until the end of the video with our 3rd person riding footage, and we'll demonstrate both that child seat as well as the passenger handles, throwing my wife back there. Now let's get to some 1st person riding footage and see what the RadRunner Plus can do. Okay, 1st person riding footage on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner Plus. Keep in mind, all Rad Power Bikes are sold as Class 2 electric bikes, so we'll get to a top speed of 20 miles per hour here. First test will be throttle only. I have the speedometer app by Cool Nix here as well to get the GPS speed. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, throttle only. As with all Rad Power Bikes models, very nicely eases you into speed. And there's 20 miles per hour. They really have made sure that their electric bikes are accessible to all and really pay close attention to the tuning on the controller. And so I feel like you don't get jerked at all. Nice smooth acceleration. Now I do get the question, can you ride whatever electric bike that I'm reviewing with no assist? And the answer is of course yes, but how fast you're going to go is the other question. Right now I'm in 4th gear here, putting in a fair bit of effort still, going about 8 miles an hour. Could shift down, of course. One of the nice things is you do have those 7 gears, and in 1st gear my legs are spinning much faster than I'd prefer, and I'm just hard to keep this cadence, I'll say. All right, now let's go into the various pedal assist levels. I will start in pedal assist level 1. Again, I was already going about 6-7 miles an hour. You could just barely feel the motor kick on. I do need to shift up though. I'm not providing much, if any, human power. 2nd gear feels okay, but I would personally prefer to pedal at a faster cadence, slower cadence. There's 3rd gear. That feels pretty good, going about 9-10 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 2. Again, just feel a little bit extra power there. I could stay in 3rd gear here, maybe go to 4th gear, going about 12 miles an hour. Pedal assist level 3. Heard and felt the motor kick on a little bit more there. Let's go into 5th gear, hitting 16-17 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 4. Another jump. I would probably shift up to 6th gear, maybe 7th gear. Rad display shows about 19 miles an hour, and there's the GPS showing about the same now, both at 19 or 20 or so. And then of course, you do have pedal assist level 5. And again, that's going to give you the faster acceleration from a stop. And of course, I could shift up into 7th gear, though keep in mind as a class 2 electric bike, top speed of 20 miles per hour with the throttle or pedal assist makes no difference. So as I round this corner in pedal assist level 5, looks like we have another e-bike here. So the way I would personally ride this, likely going to be in pedal assist level 4, given I was able to hit 20 miles per hour still on flat ground. Pedal assist level 5, maybe if you want to get through a stoplight really fast or you want some additional power going up the hill. Speaking of hills, let's get to our hill climb test and see what the RadRunner Plus can do up our large hill. Okay, hill climb test. This is the hill that we take up all of the electric bikes that we review, so you can compare and contrast. The hill looks so much smaller on the GoPro, so we'll throw up a picture as well as the specs of the hill. And our first test will be throttle only, getting up to that 20 miles per hour. Now, one thing I failed to mention with the class 2 classification, an important distinction of the Rad Power Bikes models, at least most of them, is that they are 750 watt peak motors. So the highest number I'll see here on the wattage will be 750 watts. And another thing I just wanted to talk about is the riding position. So I do have the seat height at a height where I can get full leg extension. All right, and here's the hill starting. 16 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, 14 miles an hour, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9 on the GPS at least, just for a second. And so as I was discussing, the nice thing about this electric bike, you can ride it as a moped, you can lower the seat, use the throttle a lot. You won't be in a very comfortable riding position as far as leg extension goes, but even as someone who's 6 feet tall, I was able to raise the seat up exactly where I'd want it, and it looked like there's a little bit more room or that with that minimum insertion point, which is really nice. Just showcases the versatility of this bike. All right, I believe 9 miles per hour was the minimum speed on the RadRunner Plus, about what I would expect. And so while these motors don't peak higher like some of the motors that are advertised as 750 watts that peak much higher, it's nice to know that it still can take you up very steep hills. And of course, most people are going to be pedaling. So I'm going to go back down the hill and do the hill while pedaling and talk through the various gears and pedal assist levels. Okay, hill climb test while pedaling. Now just a note, when coming down that hill, I like to talk a little bit about the brakes. Now I am extremely familiar, I would say, with these Throttle mechanical disc brakes, and they functioned just fine as far as mechanical disc brakes go. I did hit a speed of 30 miles per hour according to the GPS here. So while hydraulic are going to feel better, these mechanical disc brakes that Rad Power Bikes has been using now for many years perform really well. Though I don't necessarily recommend you go down a hill at 30 miles per hour and slam on the brakes. All right, hill is really starting now. I'm in first gear and pedal assist level 1, putting in a lot of work right now. So I would definitely go up into a higher pedal assist level. There's 2, I think I would even go higher, and I'm not even gonna shift up yet. Pedal assist level 3, there we go. Can feel a little bit of relief on my legs. Maybe go into second gear here, just at a slower cadence. Now, when we're riding around on our electric bikes, I always like to put in a fair bit of effort. So if you wanted to conserve a lot of battery, this would be a good point. It says we're using about 315 watts. Second gear. Again, pedal assist level 3. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 4. I could maybe stay here if I wanted a faster cadence, or shift up to third gear, using about 452 watts now. And I think this is the perfect example of where pedal assist level 5 is going to come in handy. There we go. And just jump to over 700 watts now. And of course, you could shift up to fifth gear. Pedal assist level 5 using over 700 watts, going about 12 miles an hour. And we'll get up this hill no problem. Yeah, so 12 miles per hour held me there pretty easily while putting in some effort. All right, with that, let's get into some third-person riding footage, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner Plus. So the RadRunner Plus 1 is not new. It was first announced on March 26th, 2020 as a limited edition e-bike. I'm assuming to test the market appetite for a Plus model after the first RadRunner was introduced in fall 2019. Eventually, the RadRunner Plus was rolled in as a permanent model in the lineup, which is an indicator of the success of this e-bike. And while it's been some time and we haven't seen a refresh in over 2 years, I still don't think it's a huge deal. Rad kind of nailed this frame design for a moped-style e-bike that was just as accessible as any other step-through e-bike. Though yes, there have been more step-through moped-style e-bikes enter the market, but most don't offer seat adjustability. The RadRunner Plus follows much of the playbook of the other Rad models, sharing many similar features. For those of you considering the RadRunner 2, I'd lean more towards the Plus unless you're trying to stick to a specific budget. Many will appreciate the suspension unless you are lucky enough to live somewhere where you only ride on perfectly smooth roads and trails. The gears will be a bonus for those who live in a hilly area and want to be able to control their cadence, though yes, it isn't quite as simple as the single-speed RadRunner, at least maintenance-wise. If you plan for a passenger with the included seat, it's kind of a no-brainer. Plus you get the pegs and the plastic guard around the wheels. And finally, the LCD screen that comes on the RadRunner Plus is worth having compared to the questionable decision they made when they put an LED screen on the non-Plus RadRunner. What's great about the RadRunner Plus is its versatility. Have small kids? Put one in the rear. Doing food delivery? Add the front or rear baskets or some DIY milk crates of your own. It's nimble enough to go almost anywhere, and the integrated rack means it's up for some serious cargo hauling of up to 120 pounds. As with most e-bikes with large batteries, the RadRunner Plus is still heavy at 77 pounds. The RadRunner Plus is estimated to fit riders all the way down from 4'11" to 6'2". The Rad's own geometry section of the product page is worth a closer look. The standover height is an impressive 16.5 inches. So what are the considerations of this e-bike? For one, the saddle simply needs more padding for those who plan for longer jaunts around the city. I imagine this will be addressed in the next generation. Secondly, and this is just my opinion, I would have liked to see at least one other colorway offered in the Plus. The silver, especially paired with the brown grips, saddle, and the rear passenger seat, is a classy look, but I much prefer the black and forest green colorways of the non-Plus RadRunner. Finally, and this is going to depend on your preference, the truth is that this is simply not the most powerful moped-style e-bike. It's not to say it isn't powerful at all. I mean, it will get you up to 20 miles per hour on throttle alone on flat ground. It's just that Rad holds firm on the 750 watt peak output on their Class 2 e-bikes. There are much more powerful e-bikes on the market, which blur the line between e-bike, moped, and motorcycle, and furthermore may not technically be legal depending on where you live. I'm not here to tell you what you should buy. I'm here to simply provide the information as well as some of my expertise so you can make an informed buying decision. But if you do decide to buy from Rad Power Bikes, check out our link in the description. Clicking that link before your purchase is a free and easy way to help support the channel and makes videos like this one possible. Thanks in advance for your support, and let me know what you think of the RadRunner Plus down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.